Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum students. How are you all? I'm your teacher, Ms. Nadia Rao from Department of Chemistry, Army Burnhall Girls College, Ahmedabad. And today we are starting with lecture number 15 of a lengthy chapter, that is hydrocarbons. In today's lecture, we will be discussing about some important topics that were left in between after the topic of alkenes. We are going to study them in detail. We will be studying about classification of dienes, isomerism and its types will be discussed. Stereoisomerism and its types will also be discussed, and among them optical isomerism will be discussed today. The first topic in today's discussion will be classification of dienes. I hope you all are familiar with the term diene. Diene stands for the organic compounds that are having two double bonds in them. Now we will be discussing various types of dienes because their stability is very important in chemistry. There are three important categories of dienes. The first category is cumulated dienes. Second category is conjugated dienes, and third category is isolated dienes. These cumulated dienes are those compounds in which pi bonds are adjacent to the carbon atom and they are very near. They are, if you consider this is the central carbon atom, it is all surrounded by the double bonds. Conjugated system is the one in which pi bonds are separated by exactly one single bond. This is a double bond. These are the pi electrons which are separated from each other by a single bond in between. The term conjugation is derived from the Latin word that means to link together. In organic chemistry, we will be using this term to describe the situations which occurs when pi electronic systems are linked together. We can get to know about them by studying various examples that will be given later on. In the next slide, you will be shown various categories of dienes by their line diagram. We can see isolated diene can be represented, conjugated and cumulated as well by the line diagrams. This is the isolated diene. You can see double bonds are separated by single bonds. There are two single bonds in between. In conjugated dienes, the double bonds are being separated by only one single bond, and cumulated dienes, the central carbon atom is not separated by any single bonds. It is all around surrounded by the double bonds. These two are quite stable forms, but this is the least stable out of these three. Now we will be discussing about the stability of these isolated and conjugated diene. Now let's see how they are linked together and why the isolated and conjugated dienes are more stable. Giving you the example of 1,4-pentadiene. In 1,4-pentadiene, if we start numbering, for example, from this side, consider these are carbon atoms. This is 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5 carbon atoms, and at position 1 there is a double bond. Consider this is a double bond, and at position 4 there is a double bond. These two double bonds, this one and this one, they are separated by two single bonds. You can see this carbon atom is holding two hydrogens, so this carbon atom is bonded with the neighboring carbon atoms through a single bond. In case of conjugated diene, we are giving you example of 1,3-pentadiene. You will have to draw it by yourself at your copies as well. And you will see if we start numbering from this point, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. At position number 1, there is a double bond. This is a double bond. And at position number 3, there is a double bond as well. Both of the double bonds are separated by a single bond. This green carbon atom is the one which is holding a single bond with the next carbon atom. So now can you see these pi electronic clouds? I'll show you in the next slide how pi electronic clouds are interacting with each other when there is isolated system and when there is a conjugated system. In the next slide, pi electronic cloud is being shown to you on these respective molecules. In case of isolated diene, again this is the structure 1,4-pentadiene. and you can see there, this is the pi electronic cloud which is present at position number 1 and 4 double bonds. These two carbon atoms will be sp2 hybridized, so they will be having one pi electronic cloud left unhybridized, so they will be lying above and below the plane. Same is the case with these two carbon atoms that are holding a double bond, and they are having a pi electronic cloud above and below. Because they are separated by each other through single bonds, so these pi bonds are independent of each other. They are not interacting with each other. Now let's see the case of conjugated dienes. In case of conjugated dienes, when there is a double bond present at position number 1 and 3, you can see these two carbon atoms are holding pi electronic cloud above and below, and the next two carbon atoms are also holding pi electronic cloud above and below. So all of the pi electronic cloud, they will have a cumulative effect, or they will have an additive effect, and they will increase the stability of this molecule. Pi orbitals will overlap above and below the ring, above and below the molecule, and they will give the extended pi bond, and that will be holding these 4 carbon atoms. Now pi electronic system is you can say extended to 4 carbon atoms. Here it is extended to 2 carbons and these 2 carbons only. So this is isolated system, that's why it's not as stable as this conjugated system is. So what happens when these pi electronic clouds are added together? This will be shown to you here. In this structure, you can see these pi electronic clouds are extended over 2 carbon atoms only. So that's why there will be less electron delocalization, and this molecule will be less stable. You have already studied about delocalization of electron. Delocalization means when electron can travel from one carbon to another, and this usually happens in case of molecules which are having pi electronic cloud. Now the pi electronic cloud that hold the electrons, they cannot travel to all of the carbon atom, because in between they are separated by a carbon atom which is having all of the hydrogens attached, and it's sp3 hybridized, so they cannot travel throughout the chain. In case of conjugated diene, as you can see, there are quite a lot of pi electronic cloud which is extended on 4 carbon atoms. So now there is more electron delocalization. Electron can travel upon 4 carbon atoms right now at a larger space, so this molecule will be more stable. The molecules which have more delocalization are more stable as compared to the molecules which have got less delocalization of electrons. After discussing these two types, isolated and conjugated dienes, let's move on towards next type, which is called cumulated dienes. Cumulated dienes are those dienes which are having carbon atom which is further linked with the carbon atoms through double bond only. These double bonds are not separated by any of the single bond. So cumulated dienes are very less stable as compared to isolated or conjugated dienes. These are also called as allenes. There's another common name is allene. Let's see the structure of allene. This is the molecular representation of the carbon atom in the center. This is another carbon and this is another carbon. And consider these carbons are linked by double bonds. And these two gray balls are the hydrogen atoms. The bond distance between the carbon atoms which are having double bond is 131 picometer. And the angle between the hydrogen atoms is 118.4 degrees. We can see the same molecule in this way as well. You can see this whole molecule is in the form of a linear structure. There is linear arrangement of carbon atoms and there is no planar geometry. So that's why this molecule is not very stable one. If we see the molecular picture again, we will see this carbon atom, the terminal carbon, will be sp2 hybridized because it is having one double bond only. This central carbon atom is sp hybridized because it is having 2 pi bonds and 2 sigma bonds. And the last carbon atom will again be sp2 hybridized, which is linked with 2 hydrogen atoms further. So this molecule is not as stable as the other two, that is isolated or conjugated system. Now moving on towards quick quiz which is given in your books. These are short questions. You have to give answers by yourself. Go through the lecture again and again. Listen to the lecture. You will find answers in this lecture. What is conjugation? What are conjugated alkenes? What is a pi bond? What are SNP orbitals? These are very simple questions. What is dehydration? What is dehydrohalogenation, hydrogenation, ozonolysis? What is Markovnikov rules? All of these questions are from the topics of alkenes and alkynes that you have studied. What is electrophilic region, nucleophilic region? What is halohydration and polymerization? These are short questions. You have to give only the definitions, right? Okay, moving on towards a very important topic from this chapter, which is isomerism. You are familiar with the term isomerism already. You might have heard about it. This isomerism is derived from the Greek words isos and meros, which means isos stands for same and meros for parts. This term was first of all used by a Swedish scientist, chemist in fact, Jacob Berzelius in the year 1830. So isomerism is in fact the phenomena in which more than one compound can have the same chemical formula, but their chemical structures will be different. These compounds which differ from each other only in their chemical structures, these will be called isomers, and these or the compounds that exhibit isomerism will be called isomers. Isomers can be divided into various categories there are various ways by which we can classify isomers or isomerism. The phenomena can be classified. This is the basic classification which is given to you. Isomerism can be divided into two main types, that can be structural isomerism and stereoisomerism. Stereoisomerism is further divided into two main types, geometrical isomerism and optical isomerism. Geometrical isomers, they differ only in the spatial arrangement about a double bond. Do remember, for geometric isomerism, double bond is a very necessary entity, and it differs only in the spatial arrangement, means the arrangement of atoms in the space around a double bond. So that will give rise to geometric isomerism. Optical isomers, they differ only in the arrangement of atoms in the 3D space, which create mirror images of each other. We will be discussing about it in detail. This topic is new for you. Structural isomerism can be divided into various other kind of isomerisms, that is chain isomerism, positional isomerism, functional isomerism, metamerism, tautomerism, and ring chain isomerism. We will be discussing all of these types in details in these two lectures. First of all, moving on towards stereoisomerism. Stereoisomerism is the kind of isomerism. In this type of isomerism, it arises to the compounds which are having same chemical formula, but their different orientation of the atoms belonging to the molecule in three-dimensional space. This stereoisomerism, the compounds that exhibit stereoisomerisms are called stereoisomers. This can further be categorized into two main types, that is geometric isomerism, which is also called cis-trans isomerism, and optical isomerism, as I have shown you already in the classification tree chart. Before moving on towards various types of isomerism, we should know about a very important phenomena which is called chirality. This is a very important thing in chemistry. The term chiral is in fact derived from the Greek word which stands for hands. This property is also called the property of handedness. Handedness means see your hands. The word chiral also stands for non-superimposable mirror images. Means if you are keeping anything in front of the mirror, the right side of that object will become left of the mirror, as you might have observed it when you see yourself in the mirror, and their sides would change. You can say these two images will be non-superimposable. Superimposable means if you are keeping one thing above the other, and both of the things, if you keep one thing above the other, if both of the objects are same, you would say these are superimposable. But if you keep one thing above the other and both of the objects are not creating the same image, you can call that object a non-superimposable mirror image of that object. So the term chirality in fact stands for those compounds which do not have any plane of symmetry. We will discuss in detail what is plane of symmetry and how chirality is related to plane of symmetry. Keep it in your mind that the molecules which have no plane of symmetry will have this property of chirality in them. Carbon atom usually which is attached with 4 different substituents will be having this property of chirality, and this carbon which is attached with 4 different substituents will be called a stereocenter, or that will be called a chiral carbon as well. The carbon which is attached with 4 different substituents, that carbon is called a chiral carbon. Why we are relating this to the hands? See your hands right now. You will see all of your fingers are not equal. You have got a thumb and you have got 4 fingers which are not equal to each other. If you keep your hand in front of a mirror, or you keep your right hand in front of your left hand, both of them are mirror images of each other. It seems that one of the hand is mirror image of the other hand, as you can see in this picture. This is the picture of 2 hands that is being shown to you. For example, consider there is carbon in the center. There is 1 hydrogen attached. Consider this thumb is hydrogen. There is COOH, another group attached at the top. There is R group attached at front, and there is NH2 group attached at the back. Now consider if this hand is placed in front of this hand, you will see both of the images. These are mirror images. It seems that there is in the center there is a mirror placed, and both of the images are mirror images of each other. But these mirror images are non-superimposable. Why non-superimposable? If you pick up whole this image and keep it on this image, you will see this R will go to above the hydrogen. It will be superimposing hydrogen, and this hydrogen will be superimposed by R group. So these are not equal. These are non-superimposable images of each other. Okay, let's consider another molecule to make you understand this thing. For example, if we have got a molecule of alanine, and this is placed in front of a mirror. This alanine is having a chiral carbon which is attached with 4 different groups. One of the group is hydrogen, another group is COOH, third group is CH3 at the back, and NH2 at the front. If you keep it in front of mirror, you would see carbon will be at the same position. COOH will also be at the same position, but the position of this NH2 is at front, CH3 is at back, and hydrogen is placed at one corner. If I pick up this whole image, if I pick up this whole molecule and I keep it above this molecule, then in that case this NH2 will be superimposing hydrogen. This NH2 will not be superimposing NH2. If it is superimposing NH2 only, we would say these are superimposable images. As you keep one hand on the other hand, your thumb is meeting with the thumb, your fingers are meeting with the respective fingers. These are, if the molecule is like this, in that way, that 2 images or that 2 molecules will be called superimposed molecule. That will not be chiral. But in this case, you can see NH2 is superimposing not NH2 but hydrogen. So we can say these 2 images are not superimposable images. The right of this image is left of this molecule, and left of this molecule is right of this other mirror image. So these are chiral molecules, because carbon, there are 2 conditions for that. Molecule should have a carbon which is attached with 4 different groups, and they should have non-superimposable images upon each other. Now these 2 images which are non-superimposable upon each other, do remember they should not have plane of symmetry as well. Of course, symmetry means when you divide any molecule into 2 halves, both of the other 2 halves should be equal. This is called plane of symmetry. So third condition for chirality is there should be no plane of symmetry in the molecule. Then in that case, molecule is going to be chiral. Let's see a very good example in this regard. In case of chirality, let's consider this carbon atom which has got 4 bonds. One with hydrogen, other bond with CH2OH group, third bond is with CHO, and its fourth bond is with OH. Now let's create its mirror image now. Its mirror image, this carbon which has got a red steric upon it, this is the stereo center. Okay, this carbon is the stereo center, so that's why it is marked with the red star. Now if we create a mirror image of this compound, if this is the mirror in the center, the other image can be drawn. Hydrogen will be at the same place. 4 bonds can be drawn. Hydrogen will again be at the top. CHO mirror image, because it is the mirror image, so CHO will be present here. This will be hydroxyl group present at the bottom, and there will be CH2OH present over here. Now you can see the molecule seems to have a mirror image. Now if these two molecules are placed above each other, if I bring this molecule upon this one, hydrogen, position of hydrogen and hydroxyl will be the same, but position of CHO and position of CH2OH will be changed in that way, because CHO will be superimposed by CH2OH, and this CH2OH will be superimposed by CHO. So in that case, we can say both of the molecules are non-superimposable images of each other. Carbon atom is attached with 4 different groups. The second condition is being fulfilled for chirality, and third condition is there should be no plane of symmetry. So non-superimposable mirror images are being made. These two images or these two compounds which are non-superimposable mirror images of each others are called enantiomers. These are two isomers which will be called enantiomers, and there should be no plane of symmetry. Now let's see how can we cut this molecule. If we cut it into this half, these two halves are not equal. This is CH2 group and this is CH2OH. If we cut it in some other plane, in any other plane, you can see, in all of the cases, the two halves are not. Let's further elaborate this structure to make you understand this thing. If I draw the same structure in this way, with the carbon with the star, that is the chiral carbon atom, it is attached with CHO group, which is shown over here in the yellow color. This carbon is shown in the center, which is further attached with OH group, which is this one, and a hydrogen atom, and it is attached at the bottom with CH2OH. It can be drawn in this way. For simplicity, we write it in this way. So this carbon in the center is the chiral carbon, or it is the stereo center. Its mirror image can be drawn in the same way. This is the stereo center, or this is the chiral carbon, which is attached with CHO at the top. This is CHO. It is attached with OH and hydrogen, which is present in this way, and it is further attached with CH2OH group, which is present at the bottom. This is the stereo center, or the central carbon atom, which is present. The most oxidized carbon is placed on the top. This is the priority order, which is not of too much of concern for you people. For example, CHO. Then the stereo center of the carbon is shown furthest from the top. From the top, it is shown furthest, or it is shown at a distance. And then OH, when it is present on the left side, it will be called L-enantiomer. The name of the compound will be called L-enantiomer, which is this one. You can see OH is present at the left side, and when OH is present on the right side, it is called D-enantiomer. You can see in this compound, OH is shown on the right side, and this compound will be called D-glyceraldehyde. The positive sign shows the D-enantiomer and negative sign shows the L-enantiomer. D and L convention is usually utilized for this purpose. So we can say that any dissymmetric object or carbon, or it can be any object, it cannot be superimposed on its mirror image. A left hand, for example, it does not possess a plane of symmetry, and its mirror image is not another left hand but a right hand. You cannot wear your right-handed glove on your left hand. Similarly, you cannot wear left-handed glove on your right hand. So this is one of the example of chiral molecules or chirality. Because they cannot be superimposed upon each other. If you lay one hand on the top of the other, the fingers and thumb would definitely clash. Similarly, there are some other examples from your daily life. Your pair of socks, they are also they show phenomena of chirality. Your pair of shoes show phenomena of chirality. Your two ears, they show the phenomena of chirality. Anything that has at least one asymmetric center and does not have a plane of symmetry will be called a chiral substance. After understanding the concept of chirality, let's move on towards next topic, which is optical activity, and it is related to chirality. What is meant by optical activity? Optical activity is the phenomena by which chiral molecules are observed to rotate the polarized light in either a clockwise or counterclockwise or anti-clockwise direction. Whenever light will pass through the molecules which are chiral, the path of the light will be changed and it will either move in the clockwise direction or in the anti-clockwise direction. Now, what is this plane polarized light? Plane polarized light is the light that consists of waves of electromagnetic energy in the visible light spectrum where all of the waves are oscillating in the same direction simultaneously. If we see ordinary light that is coming from any of the light source, it is unpolarized light and you can see it is moving in all of the directions. But when it is passed from a polarizing filter, now the light will be called a plane polarized light, which is moving only in one direction, not in all of the direction. This is the plane polarized light. So we are talking about plane polarized light. When it passes from the molecules which are chiral, they are going to rotate the path of light either in the clockwise or in the anti-clockwise direction. Let me show you a polarimeter. This is how this process will work. Polarimeter is the instrument which will rotate the path of light either in the clockwise or in the anti-clockwise direction. You can see the light source which is moving, which is having light, which has wavelength waves moving in all of the directions. When it is passing from a polarizing filter, now you can see the light is having only it is the plane polarized light which is moving only in one direction. When this is the tube where sample of the chemicals from which light is to be passed or its behavior is to be checked, that is filled inside this cylinder, and this is sample tube. Now you will see the light will, when pass from this substance, it will rotate the direction of light either in the clockwise or in the anti-clockwise direction, which can be seen over here in the analyzers. You can see before passing from the sample, the direction of light was like this, but after passing from this sample, which is chiral and which has got chiral molecules, it has changed its path in the otherwise direction. So this is the phenomena of optical activity. Such compounds are called optically active, which are changing the path of light in any of the direction, either in the clockwise or in the anti-clockwise direction. Such compounds will be called optically active compounds, and this phenomena is called such compounds which rotate the path of light in clockwise direction or anti-clockwise direction are called as optical isomers. What is the definition of optical isomerism? Optical isomerism, it is the type of isomerism in which isomeric compounds differ only in the direction in which they rotate the plane of polarized light. Conditions for optical isomerism are compounds should be chiral and compound should be asymmetric as well. If compound is chiral and it is asymmetric, then compound would be called optically active, and this compound is going to change the direction of light either in the clockwise direction, and such compounds would be called dextrorotatory, which are rotating the path of light in the clockwise direction, or other compounds which are rotating the path of light in anti-clockwise direction would be called levorotatory, and they will be shown with the negative sign. I think you remember in the previous slide I have shown you the positive and negative glyceraldehyde, that is D and L glyceraldehyde. D and L stands for dextrorotatory and levorotatory. Let's see some examples of optically active compounds. The first example of optical isomerism or optically active compound is lactic acid. This is the formula or structural composition of lactic acid, which has got carbon atom attached with 4 different groups. So of course this is a chiral carbon atom. So one of condition for optical activity is fulfilled. Now if we see optically active 2 enantiomers of this compound can be shown in this way. In one of the compound OH and hydrogen, these two CH3 and COOH will remain the same, but position of OH and H will be changed. In one of the compound, when OH is present on the left side, this will be called L-lactic acid, that is levorotatory lactic acid. Levorotatory means the ones which is rotating the path of light in the anti-clockwise direction, and the other one is D-lactic acid, which means dextrorotatory, in which OH is present on the right side. Both of them are enantiomers because both of them are mirror images which are not superimposable, non-superimposable you can say. They are lacking the symmetry and they have got a central chiral carbon atom as well. So all of the conditions are fulfilled. We would say that lactic acid is an optically active compound and it is going to rotate the path of light in either clockwise or in the anti-clockwise direction. Mirror images of lactic acid can be shown over here in this way, where the central dotted line you can consider it a mirror, and you can see this is carbon having hydrogen at back. This wedge position is showing the hydroxyl at the front, and CH3 is also present. You can see CH3 and COOH will remain the same, but position of OH and H is changing, and you can see the hydrogen is present here at the back and OH is present here. If you place this compound over this compound, both of the structures will be different. So these are enantiomers. These are optically active compounds. Do remember girls, the mixture of 2 of the enantiomers, that is dextrorotatory and levorotatory enantiomer, mixture of these 2 is called racemic mixture. And do remember, in racemic mixture there is 50% of dextrorotatory and 50% of levorotatory compound. So half of the compounds will be rotating the plane of light in the anti-clockwise direction, and half of the molecules are going to rotate the path of light in the clockwise direction. So overall racemic mixture will not rotate the plane of light in any of the direction and it will be optically inactive. So enantiomers are optically active, but their equimolar mixture is racemic mixture, which is optically inactive. So in other words, we can say that there are 3 forms of lactic acid that can exist, that is dextrorotatory, levorotatory, and third form is the racemic mixture, which is optically inactive. 2 of the forms enantiomers are optically active and racemic mixture is optically inactive. Now moving on towards another example of optically active compound, that is tartaric acid. Tartaric acid is in fact 2,3-dihydroxybutane dioic acid. The structure of the compound is being shown to you. It has got 2 asymmetric carbon atoms. If we consider this carbon atom, this is hydroxyl, hydrogen, CO2H group, and consider this whole molecule as one of the group. So this carbon is attached with 1, 2, 3 and 4 different groups. So of course its mirror image, when we are going to draw it over here, mirror image will be drawn in this way. One of the form of tartaric acid is negative, or we can say it is levorotatory, and one of them is dextrorotatory. Both of the forms in this, you can see hydroxyl groups are present on the opposite side. The third form is called mesotartaric acid, in which 2 of the hydroxyl groups are present on the same side. This molecule has got a plane of symmetry. If we cut it into 2 equal halves, we would see this side and this side, both of them are equal. It has got a plane of symmetry. So this molecule is not chiral. For chirality, necessary condition is asymmetry, and this molecule is not asymmetric. Instead, this is a symmetric molecule, and we can see it's this mirror image. This is not the mirror image of the other one, because the mirror image even has got a plane of symmetry. So these 2 forms cannot be considered. This molecule, which has got within itself a symmetry, that will be called a mesotartaric acid, and it will be optically inactive one. So for tartaric acid, we have got 4 forms. One of them is dextrorotatory, other one is levorotatory, third Third form is mesotartaric acid, which is optically inactive. And fourth form is mixture of positive and negative, that is dextrorotatory and levorotatory tartaric acid. It will again be optically inactive. So out of 4, we have got 2 optically active and 2 optically inactive forms for tartaric acid. That's all for today, girls. We will be discussing about geometric isomerism, inshallah, in the next lecture. So that's all for today. Study at homes and let me know if you find any problem anywhere. Thank you very much. Have a good day.